Hi, this is Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and I'm here with Ann Dowd, and this is Meet Your Emmy Nominees.
Thank you very much.
I say that in a plural, but it's Meet Your Emmys nominee because you're nominated for 2 Emmys.
I am very fortunately nominated for 2, yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So you're nominated for Outstanding Supporting Actress and then Outstanding Guest Actress in a Drama Series.
Yes.
For The Leftovers and Handmaid's
Tale.
So tell me about when you got nominated. I've heard from other interviews that you've done that you were very nervously rearranging furniture around.
Oh, it's so pathetic. You know, I can't even believe I've told anyone this. Here we go. You forget when you talk to lovely people, you think, I've just said things that possibly I should have kept to myself. Well, the whole way up to it, you know, you just say, come on, now let's keep a balance here. You're working, and that's the most wonderful thing. Meanwhile, heart racing. And I'm shooting something in North Carolina, so I was there. Good behavior, which is wonderful. Do you know it? Michelle Dockery and
Yes.
Wanda, you know, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so here I have this lovely little place to stay, and I had several days in which I wasn't shooting. So time alone, good, and also,
Yeah.
How many times can you get in the vehicle and go to TJ Maxx? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Hey, girl, get a life. Okay, so, but what it also did is I just was able to calm down and just relax. I have 3 children. Life can get very interesting and full, so time alone is a good thing. So that morning, woke up, wonder what today is, joke. I knew exactly what the day was, and I suddenly thought, I think I'm gonna move the furniture because that bed would be so much nicer over there. Don't you think? I'm alone talking out loud. Not my home, I'll just say that. Bed over there, and I thought, the pictures, let's see what the artwork, let's try that. Well, I thought, honey, you're in trouble. You need a little assistance. You need to calm down. So after I'd done that to 3 rooms, may I just say 3 rooms, 3 bedrooms. The twin bed? No. Who wants to put it side by? No, it's going to go here. Anyway, then I finally said, you need to lie down and get a grip. Get a hold of yourself. So that worked for about 30 seconds. And then eventually 11:30 came, which is when the announcements happened. And I thought, okay, good. Well, it's all happening. It's out of your hands. Nothing to be done. And then at 11:40, I thought, I got to call Adam or text him. So I said, has it happened? Is it over? Can we? And he called and said, you got both. And I somehow got from the bed to my knees. Not sure how that happened. I kind of slid. That's where I was. It's probably way
wonderful.
Too much information, but it was pretty darn thrilling, I would tell you.
Yeah.
And then I said, are you sure, Adam? Do you think you should check in again about that? It's really sweet. He's lovely.
So wonderful.
Really. It just stunned me and thrilled me and all at once, so.
So who did you speak to first? Did you do any celebrations after you got both?
Well, I don't think I left the bed for the afternoon, but I did have conversations, you see. My daughter called and said, my friend just, I guess Facebook or something. And I said, yeah, and then I talked to my husband, and then I talked to my mother. It was kind of great. And Adam a couple of times. That was lovely. I keep looking over here, but I'm not talking to you lovely people anymore. It's just, I need to be led by the hand.
We have some other people
looking
in the studio.
Here.
Yeah. So what has been the reaction of fans for both of the shows? Have you had any feedback from anyone?
Oh, people have been lovely and generous. Fans are the greatest, really, aren't they? They're the reasons we have careers, I'll just say that straight out, but just their kindness and generosity, I was very touched by it. And a few times in New York, you run into someone, of course, it's always by foot in New York, or not always, but so there's been some of that, but people have just been very, very generous and kind. It's lovely.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And is there anybody that you're rooting for at the Emmys? Any other nominees?
Oh,
I might have a few.
I come from a large family, so I want all of them to win.
Yeah.
It's just, but it is true. Being nominated and being part of that conversation is pretty great. But I don't have anyone in particular. You think that so many are deserving. so many from the leftovers are deserving, you know.
Yeah.
And Handmaids, it's all, without each other, we don't have a show. So it's hard to pick the one, you know.
Yeah. Who would you like to sit next to at the Emmys if you could?
Well, aside from my husband, you mean? Mm-hmm. Yes. And my children and my mother and my siblings, you mean aside from them?
Yes, aside
Okay.
from your plus
Well,
ones.
for the leftovers, I would like to sit next to Justin and Damon and Tom, you know. And Handmaids, you know, just amongst my cast. That would be lovely.
Yeah.
They're family now, you know, when you've gone through a season or you spend time really in the trenches. By trenches, I mean the late and tough hours. You just have a kind of closeness and respect for your colleagues and the crew and all of that. So any one of them would be lovely.
Let's talk about the leftovers. So the last season was this year, and you were nominated for Best Guest Actress. And your episode is incredible. I mean, the whole season is incredible.
I mean, with a mind like Lindelof and Parada and our writers, you know. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So what was the timeline when you were working on both shows? Were you finishing up the leftovers as you were starting Handmaid's Tale? Was there a lot of overlap?
There was no overlap, actually.
Oh.
I took my daughter to college, my husband and I, and my youngest boy. We wept for, you know, we were crushed. And, you know, I mean, we literally had to pull over twice and see whose idea was this? Why are we letting her go anywhere? What are we doing? I mention that because the next day I flew to Australia. This is August. And it worked out quite well. I was there for maybe 10 days and then got home and had a little time there and then went to Toronto where we shoot. But there was no overlap. That was nice to have just a moment to breathe.
Yeah.
For sure.
All 3 seasons have been so different. You know, you're this character, this very strong character in season 1, and then you kind of exist in another plane for the other 2 seasons.
Yes.
And then the third season is just, like you said, it's like you're 10 days, you're into that character again.
Well, you know, each coming back for the second season was a surprise for me.
Yeah.
I thought, well, we've had, you know, she's gone and that's that. And I loved that character, so I was thrilled to come back for the second. And then I thought that was it too, and then to come back for the third, you know, lovely surprises. But what's amazing in my mind, and of course the credit goes to the writers, is that it's the same character in all 3. She evolves, surely. And what happens in the final episode is I think she's let go of the burdens of her life. Which happened first in season 1, her physical life, and then in season 2, the emotional burden that she carried. And then in season 3, she's just there to help her friend move on into his life and return the favor. So no matter that all of the contexts were so different, I mean, really, how do you even? Secretary of Defense and where are we? And we're going to, it's so genius, you know. But it's the same person, which I love, which is, again, credit to the writers. And I watched the last episode and that episode, so 7 and 8, with Justin in New York on the same night. And we looked at each other several times throughout, and we just said, who comes up with this? Who writes this? And because of the depth of the material and the extraordinary nature of it, the relationship that I have with Justin, who is my very, very, very dear friend, and he will be always in my life. And I would trust him with my life because of the experiences we had working together. I don't know if that happens a lot in your life, but it's rare, I find, to achieve that level of intimacy, both in the relationship, in the story itself, and in our own friendship. You know, it's a beautiful gift. Yeah.
Did you have, was it kind of a lighter experience working on that last episode? Because there is some humor to it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's an interesting question. The fact that it was around the world somewhere. Do you know what I'm saying? And I didn't even, I left on a Sunday and I got there on a Tuesday. You know what I mean? You spend a fair amount of time saying, okay, but where's Monday?
Yeah.
You know, so you're not, you know, it's surreal.
Yeah.
And I think you need to be there a while to get your bearings. Well, we didn't have that
We
opportunity.
didn't have that.
So it's like hit the ground running. But what was lovely about it is that it was not about her. By lovely, I mean in terms of the emotional burden that had passed, and the focus was very clearly on Kevin. Come on now, we're going to get this done. So in that respect, it was easier to step into her experience. Other times, and again, this is the thing about this show, because of the writing and the linear sense of the story, it hits us on so many levels that you can't even identify. Like if you and I were to talk about what actually does happen in that last episode of the series, did that really happen for Nora?
I wanted to ask you that. I wanted to ask because I know that Damon has said that he didn't, he wanted to leave it open. He didn't want to give direction one way or the other.
Yeah.
So what do you think personally?
Well, that's what I love about him, by the way. He does not, Damon does not offer information. He leaves and he answers any question you have, he will answer to the fullest. But he does not volunteer the information.
Interesting.
It's genius. You know, for example, I was trying to think, what does she want in season 2? What am I doing? Am I trying to help him with his relationship with Nora? Because I say to him, you know, I told you don't tell her, but you told her. And he said, oh no, she doesn't believe in relationships. And I thought, of course she doesn't believe in relationships. He just keeps bringing it back to who she is. And then people would say, but what is she in season 2? Is she a ghost? And once you work with Damon, and of course Tom, at all, I don't want to exclude anyone there, you don't ask for answers. Excuse me. That answer I didn't need. I knew she was present for him. So whether I'm a ghost or I'm a figment of his or whatever I am present. She is present, Patty. So that was always a pleasure. So you asked me about the last episode.
Yeah.
Here's what it took me several days thinking about it. And it may change next year. But this is what I thought was so brilliant about it. Whatever happened with Nora, she came to a place where she was able to let go and to feel that they were safe and that they could proceed without her and she without them. That her time with that part of her life had ended and it was time to let go. And however that came to be, I don't know. But as in the example I just gave you, I wasn't curious about the facts, if you will.
Right.
I was curious about the process.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so beautiful because depending on who you talk to and depending on where that individual is with their own grief or loss, the story has a different relevance. It impacts them differently. That's what I think is so extraordinary. And what I learned from that show, and again, to receive something personally in terms of a shift in the way you see the world, that's a great gift. But the notion of sit with grief, sit with the loss, sit with the discomfort, just sit with it. Don't run, don't distract yourself, don't attach to everything under the sun to keep yourself from that experience. The pain will take over for a while and then it will let go because that is the nature of grief and of loss. And that's what that show kept doing. So now if I were to talk about her for any great period, I would sob because I still don't know where she went and what happened. I know I get the general idea because, hello, I was there. But the depth of the material, as in any great writing, will be experienced differently depending on one's place in their life.
How you interpret it. So you like the mystery, just being open and just
Yes.
being about the process.
Very comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And I can't say beforehand that I would have been.
Oh.
See, no.
At the beginning of this, at the beginning
before I
of
had
the
my
Leftovers,
experience,
you
I would have said, okay, come on now.
Yeah.
What?
I heard that you read the script. Yes.
When I first read it, I was like, departure? No, don't think so. Oh, here we go. Somebody's
How could that
imagination.
happen?
Yeah, and it doesn't happen, and it didn't, and so therefore, do you know what I mean? To think what an idiot I was. I feel like I was a 2-year-old at the time, and now
Yeah.
I've come through puberty or
Wow,
something. Do you know?
amazing.
That's the thing, amazing. That's what I want to say to Lindelof and Tom Perrotta, and my Justin, of course. They're all mine now, you see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, let's talk about Handmaid's Tale. Did you bring over, I mean, obviously it sounds like there was a growth period for you during the filming of Leftovers.
Yes, for sure.
All of your other career before that. What did you bring into Aunt Lydia? Like what did you bring over from your other acting?
Well, the more work you do, and this is the great thing about aging, underrated, those of you who are concerned.
I like
think
that. I like
underrated.
that.
Oh, for sure. Because do you think I should grab your hand one more time? What do you think?
I like it.
A perspective. And you know that even though I'm scared to death, because when you jump on a new character, you can think about it all you like and prepare as one should and does and everything. And then you got to put it on its feet.
Yeah.
And but what, as I was starting to say, age gives you is you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to just sit with this uncomfortable. It's going to be part of it. You're going to be nervous. You're going to feel strange. You're going to want to run. Day one of filming, I literally go home and say, what was I thinking?
Oh, yeah.
And it takes over, that feeling of, what was I thinking? I just want to go home. I don't want to do it again. I don't know what happened there, but it wasn't what I was hoping for. And that's the thing. And then you get up the next morning and it's another day and another chance. So I would say that over the years of working, it's just that awareness. Okay, this is scary, and yep, how are we going to do it? Well, we are going to do it, and you don't have to get it on the first take, and you're not going to know her fully in the first episode. This is going to be a relationship that will grow over time. Take your hands off the controls. That's the big difference. Before I'd be like, have to decide before I even get there. That's my job. Got to plan it all out.
Right. It's got to be perfect.
It's got to be right. I mean, make the decision
Yeah.
now. Because in theater, of course, you have not that many weeks. Like in Russia, you have 3 months to rehearse a play. In America, we have 3 weeks. Do you know what I'm saying? I worked with a Russian director once who directed the same play in Russia and had spent 3 months rehearsing. And he came here to direct for the first time in America, 3 weeks. So anyway, what's my point?
difference.
Oh, he couldn't believe it. He said it was, do you think you can do it? It's like, well, whether we think we can or not, we are doing it.
We're doing it.
Yeah, we're going up. That's
And
it.
as we go.
Yeah. But it's letting go of the controls, letting go of needing it to be a certain way and knowing it will take its own shape
Right.
when it's ready.
Right. And you've put a lot of humanistic touches into Aunt Lydia. She comes out through the season. You see that she is a human being.
Yes.
She's not just a prison guard
Exactly.
or overly religious
Thank you.
prison
Yes, right.
guard. So do you think that going into season 2 we're going to see more changes in her?
I wonder, because I'm sure at the end of 10, of the last episode, I think she did not see that coming. And that it's such a shock. And I think I would guess, no, she's had a few months, that she was in shock, that she just said, how did I misread this room so? How could I not have seen this coming? I mean, there are a few loose cannons in there. Usually she can pinpoint, okay, that one needs to have a little damage done because she's not going to get the drill. But the scary ones are Offred, of course, Lizzie's character. Lizzie's so wonderful. And Moira. She can't read those two. Something about them. They're going to do what they're told. Of course, they try to escape, and then they learn a little lesson there. Lizzie does. But the point is, I think she has to reassess.
Yeah.
And whether she'll open up and let go of some of the rigidity, I don't know. We'll see. It's so lovely. They don't tell actors anything.
No.
It's kind of wise, I suspect, because you might just be tempted to tell.
Right. Yeah. It
Because
might come out
especially
right
you
now.
look at someone lovely like you who's very warm and say, oh, let me tell you, you know what?
Yeah.
They said don't, but it won't be so bad, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, this show, Handmaid's Tale, it kind of burst forth during the changeover in the election. So you, as
God.
all the cast and crew members had to answer a lot of political questions. How does that sit with you? How does that sit with you to have to kind of dive into the politics of today when you're talking about your television show?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I happened to not be shooting on the day he was elected. I was home in New York, and I stayed in bed for the day because I couldn't. It was just sickening. And I remember texting Lizzie and how you even manage him. Of course, she was shooting. But you asked me a different question. Yes, I think it's certainly a different thing. Actors I don't think our skill set especially is in articulating our political beliefs and our personal beliefs. Some are quite able. I have opinions. Certainly, we all do. But have I done my homework? Meaning, am I really prepared to answer that question intelligently? But I think it's important to do so because Handmaids offers us that opportunity. Yeah. It's a form of activism, and it's very necessary. And the big message in Handmaids, or one of them, is stay awake, stay alert. Don't let the little steps go by. Well, that's not so bad. We'll worry about it later. Because when they looked up from their phones, like that scene, it gives me goosebumps. When she can't get money out of the ATM.
Yeah, yeah.
What?
It's a very real moment where you're
it's so frightening. And then the guy who's been put in the place is just allowed to treat her like dirt. And suddenly the new order is in place. Yeah. So, I think it's important to articulate. And if you want to. We were all up there at, I don't know, Tribeca, were you there by any chance?
I wasn't there, no.
When there was a premiere, and then there were questions for the audience. And everybody was slightly deer in the headlights. Not everybody, but I'm the oldest in the cast, I really think. I'm pretty sure I am. And so you look at those sweet handmaids, and they're all smart as whips. And Lizzie, of course, is used to articulating her opinions and so on and so forth. But you suddenly feel a certain responsibility to say something. And I happened to be overtired that day, helpful. Because when you're so tired, you know how it is, the judgment factor sort of kind of slips away, for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And that's where I was. I thought, just let it rip, whatever it's going to be. And it was still so shocking that he is the president. You can still go back to that original, what happened? What happened? So
everything changed in an instant.
In an instant.
Yeah. To wrap it up, I have a couple of questions that we've been asking all the Emmy nominees. It's called First Best, Last Worst.
Oh.
So what was the first acting job that made you think, I've made it?
Oh, I've made it. Let's see. Well, when I got my first job in the theater and I got my equity card, I was sure they were going to call and ask for it back. I just waited by the phone and said, well, you know what, honey, you did get this equity card. So when I was actually sure that I was in the union, I just thought, you're kidding me. This is the best. So I thought once I had landed there, I was in, Yeah. And whatever made it, in those days, what making it means is a job.
Yeah.
That you're being paid to do.
Yeah.
And no one's saying, honey, why don't you just go on home now? You know what I'm saying? That's just the greatest.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first.
Best story you have from the set of, you can choose Handmaid's Tale or Leftovers.
By best story, I'm trying to think. Well, you know what? I'll tell you a story. I don't know how funny it is, but I always get a slight kick out of it. We have wonderful, they call them background actors, but of course they're essential to our story. But these are young women who come in to play handmaids, and they're astonishing because their hours are brutal, and they haven't had the opportunity to read the script. I don't think it's provided to them, you see. They get the general story, but when we're in a classroom, say, and Lydia's going to do some teaching or whatever she's going to do, I wanted to make sure we were all on the same page. So between takes, we would do some improv, just where I would sort of terrify them. Because I wanted them to be afraid of me, because they're all afraid of Lydia. And so if I would see someone with a slouch, you, and I would march over, and the sweet girl, they'd be like, who are you? Just to be able to truly in the moment scare them.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, afterwards, now, Doll, you know I'm just kidding, right? We're all good. But just to make sure they all understood, these are the stakes here. Mm-hmm. You can't look down. You can't be bored. If you're bored, you hide it with every bone in your body because you will not survive.
Yeah.
If Lydia's talking to you and you're going like this, it's over.
Yeah.
You're going to get slapped. It's going to happen. So it was trying to create that atmosphere in which they would be terrified, for at least a minute or two. So I enjoyed in whatever circumstance would come up. Yeah.
The last time you were recognized in public?
Well, I am at home, leftovers. There are a few fans in the neighborhood. It's kind of lovely. Mm-hmm. And I don't wear makeup generally, to my mother's chagrin. Honey, couldn't you just? I will, Mom, I promise. I will when I get to it. And so, of course, I don't wear makeup for Lydia. It's like a pretend makeup session. It's hysterical. It takes 30 seconds. Come on in and sit down. I was like, yeah, we all know. Okay, good, you're good. But there's one story. It's not either leftovers or Handmaids, so I don't know if it's relevant, but about recognition.
Yeah.
I was going to do something in Canada, and of course going through customs. And did you ever see True Detective by any chance?
Mm-hmm.
The first season? Okay.
Yeah.
So this young girl, she said, it's my first day she's working for customs. I thought, oh God, help us all, her first day. It's going to be a long afternoon. And so she looked at my work paper. She said, so you're an actress. I said, yeah, I am. She said, well, what have you done? My favorite question, not. And so I said, well, do you watch TV? I said, yeah. Oh, yeah. I said, do you watch HBO or anything? She said, oh, yeah, I just watched a series. It was so good called True Detective. Oh, it was amazing. I said, you saw the whole thing, did you? She said, oh, yeah. Oh, I did. I said, the sister of the brother, and she went, ah! And she put her head on. She, screamed, and she buried her face. And she turned red, and I don't know when I've laughed that hard. It was the most delicious thing. And she could barely look at me after that. Here are your papers. Go over there. Go to Canada, or don't go to Canada. But it was just the sweetest thing I ever saw. It was delicious. And she kind of went, yeah, I thought, it was just very, very funny. Nice. Very sweet.
Worst audition experience?
Oh, God. Okay, the worst. I'll tell you the worst, was meeting Jonathan Demme to audition for Philadelphia. God rest his soul, he's the most beautiful man. My agent knocked herself out to get this audition for me. This is years ago, seriously, 24 years ago. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those days, when you can tell, I can't really, I'm kind of an introvert today. Not a good place for an actor to be, or imagine when you're interviewing, you got to be out there, out of yourself, and not in that cloud of, I'm going to stay in bed. And I couldn't shake it for the life of me. And I'm heading to the audition. It was humid in New York. I looked like a train wreck, sweating and everything. And I kept walking and talking to strangers to see if I could get out of it. How are you? Hi. They'd be like, oh, good. New Yorkers, don't do that because I've got time and you're odd.
Not good.
So I'm going to be walking ahead here.
Yeah.
So finally I got to the audition. I thought, okay, well, I don't have it today. What can I tell you? Tried everything. Just then I said, well, there it is. So I go in the room. There's Jonathan. Howard Fewers, the casting director, lovely, old school, the producer. And so he said, hi. And I said, hi. And then that deadly silence. And when you're in an audition, it's deadly, that thing where it just lands. You're like, don't tell me I'm not saying anything. I'm not, Ann. So then Howard Fewer could see actor in trouble, not going to provide conversation or anything that could be possibly amusing or give them any sense of who she might be, none of it. So Howard Fewer jumps in and he says, well, Ann has a baby. There's a billion baby stories. I mean, there's zillions, and they're cute and fun, right? Icebreaker. And so I said, yes. I thought, no, Ann, you must provide an example of something. Yeah. So I said, this is what I said. He stood up in the crib. Complete dead silence. And I thought, no.
It's a bit creepy.
And I thought, that's all I said. He stood up. Of all the things you could say, he stood on his head. He whatever you could say. I stood up. He said. So then there was a deadly silence, and I could see Howard Fewer going, "I'm never going to have her in the room again, never as long as he lives." So he jumped. He said, "Well, okay. Well, let's just do the scene." I thought, "Oh God, God, where's the noose? And give it to me. Did the scene. Thank you, Mr. Demi. It's such a pleasure. And so on. And I went right to the payphone and I called my manager and I said, Marcia, I am so sorry. I know you worked hard to get this audition. I blew it, and I can just tell you I did the best I could, and thank you, and I'm sorry. I go home. Those are the days of phone machines. Mm-hmm. She's screaming, you got it! I think you got it! You have to go in tomorrow and meet Tom Hanks to see if you guys look like you're in the same family, brother and sister. I said, no, what? Can you imagine? So then later, like a month later, I said, well, I still don't know. I loved doing it. It was such a, And she said, the reason I got it, slightly mortifying, is because they couldn't imagine, by they I simply mean the casting director, Jonathan Demme, that I could have been a lawyer or a doctor. I was a stay-at-home mom who had the wits kind of knocked out of her from fatigue because she just had the baby. And so she just is one of those, which was, of course, the state I was in.
You nailed it.
And I just thought, you know what? Here's a lesson. Never give up. I mean, you never darn know, do you?
Yeah.
Because literally I thought, that's got to be one of the least effective auditions I've ever given. There you go.
That's amazing.
It was, yeah.
How wonderful.
Thank
Ann
you.
Dowd, thank you so
What
much
a
for
pleasure.
being with
You're
us.
such a doll.
Thank you.
Thank you,
And
everyone.
good luck. We'll see you on Emmy night.
Oh, God. Are you going to be there?
Probably in spirit.
Oh, I see. I was going to say, you have your dress.
Might be.
Go right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope if you enjoy that, I hope you can come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe some parties afterwards.
Oh, there you go.
Thanks.
Lovely. Thank you so much.